All right, everyone, it is 6:33. I'll call the meeting to order. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Move to approve the agenda as circulated.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder? Thank you. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, that is carried. Minutes of the last meeting, which I don't have the date right in front of me. There it is. Thank you. Sort of. Oh, that's really tight. Of July 10th, 2025. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes, please? Councilor Elliott. Thank you. Seconder? Great. Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, that too is carried. Thank you. And then we have public input. Public participation is limited to 30 minutes. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. For 1 minute. Every person is limited to 3 minutes and may return to speak for 1 minute if time permits. Questions or comments must be directed to the chair. Comments and questions related to personnel, current or potential litigation issues or planning issues for which a public hearing has already occurred, but no decision made by council will not be answered. Do we have anyone in the gallery who wants to speak or anyone online? No? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to new business, Director Lake is going to walk us through the Housing Accelerator Front Action Plan and check-in.
That one doesn't work.
It died. Yeah.
You're sitting.
Oh, yeah.
You can
So
move over here.
you can, yeah, if you want to think that's easier.
I'll make this full screen. Just 1 sec. Where's the full?
Are we video recording this or just recording it audio version?
It's just going to basically be the picture of the screen.
I was gonna say, because everyone could move around if no one, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So feel free to move around. It's not videotaped. It's just going to be audio. So you can move around to see the screen. So that makes it better for everyone.
Once we have a discussion, we can move to doing the video, but the video is just going to show this. You think I have to download it, Mark? This is better. Okay. Thinking. Okay, thank you for your patience. Okay, so today what we're hoping to do is a staff presentation, and fortunately or unfortunately, we have no consultants with us today, so I will be talking at you for a while. And we're gonna try to pick up from the last couple discussions just to sort of remember where we're at, which I think is important. But the biggest thing is we've been working really hard on creating draft documents. So I want to give you a sense of what's in the documents and familiarize yourself with those, particularly some of the mapping before they go out to the public and we do an introduction to those documents for planning committee and council. So the second part of the meeting, and we'll see how long. I'm open to taking questions as we go through the presentation rather than wait till the end. So that may take some time. And then at the end, I think we can just have some informal discussion around larger maps. So what we've brought with us is the main zoning map, which everyone will be very interested in. but also hoping that people can understand the overlay, the design guidelines area. So we have a map, a bigger map that we can stand over and look at. I'll show it on the screen too. And also the neighborhood commercial discussions that we've had. We have a pretty clear picture of that has also been blown up, and we can talk about that. So that can be as formal or informal. I'll leave that to the sort of the will of the committee once we wrap up. But hopefully we can be out of here in a couple of hours. So yeah, we came back. We came with a series of sort of directional, bigger picture pieces, always with the idea that people wanted to see the details. So there's some details here, and there's a lot more detail that's going to come in the documents. I tried to keep this to a reasonable length. This could have been a 3-hour presentation, so it's probably too long as it is. And we did follow up through the June and July PAC discussions with council in July before what we would consider the summer break, just because this is a unique file. And so this is what I have bolded on the screen right now, where there is a contract between council and the federal government. PAC is acting as the steering committee. I don't think there's anything that is significantly different, but oh no. That doesn't look good. Why did that happen? Okay. So yeah, we took some pieces of, I'll call it comfort and direction from council with a really healthy discussion in July. That would have been the last meeting of council before the break, because this is a significant lift for staff. This is a significant budget outlay, and we want to be as efficient as we can with our time and money that we're spending on other people's time. So now we're really steering towards, and we're on track to have, I'm going to call it an 80% draft of the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw at the beginning of October. So I'll get in a bit more about timeline. So we're working with a number of people on getting these drafts finished. We're talking about progress and having some discussion today. At the PAC meeting in October, council will be invited really to receive the documents and to step through them in a coherent way that can be done in an hour or so, so that we can hit the highlights, we can hit the directions. We're not going to walk through line by line. We've never done that. If there's a desire to further down, we certainly can for certain sections or certain policy or bylaw development, but that probably won't be the intent. PAC will then receive documents for further discussion and potential motions in November. So there'll be time for reflection to process the material, and there'll also be time to hear what the community thinks through sending out a mail out. So we're working on a mail out that everyone in the community would receive, that would sort of summarize, but also invite them to access more information and come talk to us at the open houses. So the open houses, 4 of them have been scheduled. Lindsay and Barb are working on communications and getting people at those events. And obviously PAC is not required, but would be really welcome to be at those events. In November, we will be able to turn around a summary of what we heard, and anyone that was at the meetings, we would be relying on you to also have some level of summary in your head. You're all going to have discussions as well. We have a bit of a buffer there in November at the regular council meeting to potentially have discussions at council. We don't have something finalized, but what we're steering towards is PAC making a recommendation to council in November. And so that in the past has looked a number of different ways, and we'll have to see what the main issues are. And so in the past, we've made a recommendation on, most of it is fine. However, we would recommend to council to look at A, B, C, D issues in more detail. I have no doubt there will be those issues. So when we get into December at Committee of the Whole, that would be when really the process goes to council exclusively, and we'll be sort of circling around getting to the end at that point. I have built in some additional time here, but the goal would be to have a really good discussion at Committee of the Whole, considering PAC's recommendations and all of the dialogue that will come your way from other sources. And at that council meeting, there would be a consideration of first reading with conditions, right? So the big thing for us on the document production side is we don't want to keep going back to the documents and making a ton of changes. So once we sort of know that we can work towards finishing the document, so people that have been on council are familiar with this kind of process. We would then take time after council is comfortable and gives us the final direction. I call that at first reading. It may take us a month just to finish the documents because December, Christmas break. So we would advertise for a public hearing when we have the documents completed because we can't change them anymore. And so we give ourselves some grace to take the time to do that, but also give council the opportunity, multiple opportunities at Committee of the Whole and first reading or another meeting that could be built in there to provide direction. But we'll be really down to the details at that point. That legislative process is sort of laid out there. So we finalize the documents, we advertise for a public hearing, we have a public hearing, and then second reading or adoption happens. And so that's really the end of the process. I'm saying that I'm just ballparking this because it's really out of my hands at that point, but we're anticipating that being in February. Just a bit of an update on more like the nuts and bolts of this sort of contractual obligation around unit count. So our targets with our half commitments were to have 120 units come through our permitting system, not necessarily be fully built, and have 20 affordable units come through and proceed to permitting. So we've already surpassed 120 units. So that's really great. We do have 4 affordable housing units that have been permitted, but really the last line. So we need 16 units of non-market affordable type housing to finish off that requirement. We are anticipating some applications to meet that requirement. So this is all to say, I think we're in really good shape on the sort of nuts and bolts of the requirements. The other half of the requirements are the action plan that we'll go through. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on the plan review component, and I'm honestly going to be glazing over it because there's just a lot of material. There's 2 humongous documents, the municipal plan and the land use bylaw. I'm going to try to hit on all the things that I'm pretty sure will be issues. And just to check, it's real. This is a check-in, and I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with where we're going here. So those 2, the first 2 are a lot. Then we'll talk about parking more briefly. We'll talk about the work we're doing with Acadia today, and I have some work. We've done quite a bit of work with Acadia over the last month or so, and so I'll show you some of that work today. And then the non-market housing, most of that is being worked into our municipal plan, so you'll see that in more policy format for the most part when it comes to you in October. Any question? Well, I can stop maybe if whatever the chair is
Pretty good so
comfortable
far?
with. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So just reminding everyone, we do have sort of legislated realities around what our planning documents need to do. And that's laid out in the Municipal Government Act. But our municipal planning strategy, that MPS, it's statements of policy to guide the development and management of the municipality. I think our municipal plan's actually in pretty good shape, but what happens when you're doing such an extensive piece of work to your land use bylaw? The municipal plan has a number of policies that just enable certain things to happen through your land use bylaw and your subdivision bylaw. Right, so those, the LUB and the sub, those are regulating documents that implement the policies of the plan. So there's like a relationship between the two. Our municipal plan does have some other, and I'll touch on some of it, things that are related to land use planning, but are a bit more around governing the town more generally. Some of that won't change, but we're going to try to do a really good job of hiving off the half requirements. And if we have to have a separate meeting to discuss just the things that are sort of outside of half, we can. I'll talk about some of them today. So this is the main mapping product that comes out of the municipal planning strategy, which is called a generalized future land use map. And this is just one of the ways that we organize the town spatially. And so this really hasn't changed a lot from what you would have seen in our existing one. And I'm assuming that people aren't sitting there looking at the municipal plan all the time. So I'm going to talk to you as if you're not. And so the last plan, the big change, is the downtown was split up into two separate designations. One was the commercial area and one was the commercial neighborhood area. We've had a lot of discussion on that, and we're moving away from that. So we really just have a downtown or commercial designation. Big purple area is the neighborhoods, the university's there, and then we have agricultural land. So it's really from a spatial separation perspective, it's really quite simplistic. It's really straightforward. But this is how the policy environment organizes and enables the implementation through the land use bylaw and the subdivision bylaw. We didn't admittedly do a great job of connecting the land use and the transportation work previously because we, for a lot of reasons, but I'll just say that we didn't. And we've been working with Mobicon through our active transportation process, and I've been working with them at a policy level as well. And so it's a similar principle. For them to do good design work, they need some parameters that are in policy. So what are we trying to achieve on the different types of streets that we have in town? So the main metric that we're using, this isn't that different from what we have, but we're really trying to define things around desired speed. And we've had so much discussion around traffic calming and neighborhood feel and making neighborhoods great places to be and not thoroughfares. That I think this is a really great way for us to do this. So I'll just step you through some of this. So this is a working draft, but I wanted to show you the work. So this is a little bit messy, but just bear with me. So the main part of downtown, and please tell me if you disagree with any of these speeds, but just let me get through it first. So this is the main part of downtown. The design speed, let's call it, is we're trying to achieve 30 kilometers. I think that's the reality now, it's just what's there. The outside of Main Street has a different design speed, which is 50, and we've, I think, helped achieve that with some of the interventions we've made recently with the bollards. I've certainly noticed a big difference on speeds coming in and out of town with that. We do have a major trail designation just because we are making an investment in the downtown portion of the Harvest Moon Trail, and Matt is a consultant we're working with at Mobicon. He really thinks that that should be a part of our transportation network, and I certainly agree. So the low volume collectors, so in a bigger place, you would have a lot more traffic coming in from any opportunity that they have on a street that people would name a collector. So if you can get to a place efficiently, and in Halifax, people do workarounds on all kinds of streets to try to get to where they want to go. We don't have a ton of volume coming in through our collectors. There's not really a lot out in the Gaspereau Valley. So we're calling those low volume collectors. We have local streets, which are most of the streets in town, with a desired speed of 30. And I think that's a really comfortable speed for pedestrian comfort. And then we have some little points of interest. So destination streets, that's the school at Acadia. That's in front of the visitor center. That's the area in front of Reservoir Park that we're experiencing quite a few conflicts in and want to make some changes up there. And then that's Perkins Way at the university. I'm not sure. I need to have a few more discussions with Marcel about that, but certainly the intent from initial discussion is that was meant to be very pedestrian friendly and is. I mean, a lot of people walk through there. The next sort of layer of that in working on this transportation piece is just talking about the interventions. And this is really just translating the active transportation plan that we've presented to council now. So a lot of neighborhood traffic calming to try to achieve these outcomes, right? So this kind of gives us a mandate, the policy mandate, to implement different things. If this is what, if these are the metrics that council wants to get us to. I think our previous transportation planning was, I'll call it maybe slightly more generic and not really playing to the context that we have in town, which is very unique. So yeah, this has some different labels, but really it's the same idea. So these are trails, intersections, crossings that we're looking at. This is kind of the scope of work that Mobicon's working on right now. So we're getting layouts done for all of these areas that you see. Some of it doesn't involve a full layout, but we're paying attention to all of these areas and we're presenting it back to council in November, hopefully with a workshop. But I just want to connect these pieces of work because I think it's really important to think about land use in the context of how people are moving around the town. So more will come on this. I'm going to go to the next slide. So there's
Can
other.
I stop there for a sec?
Yep.
That's the first time we've seen that, I think, at PAC. So does everybody understand what and kind of see what Devin's going with? Or any questions or concerns?
Just
go
a
ahead.
question, when you say traffic calm, is that putting in the barriers like the bumps? Yeah,
Speed
bumps,
bump?
yeah. Or is it?
We're working on a bit of a traffic calming. So some speed bumps. Yeah, and we have some existing speed bumps and quite a bit of success with that on Sterling. But there's also a tool that we're hopefully introducing around chicanes, if you're familiar with that. It's sort of a bump out where people have to move horizontally so they don't have a straight shot down the street. Places are putting a bollard in the center of the road with an indication of the speed limit. And there'll be some speed bumps in some contexts. Having speed bumps on hills is difficult. We've done quite a bit of evaluation on speed bumps. We've just ordered and are about to receive some bolt down larger speed bumps to try those as well. But yes, there's depending on the street, we're trying to have a language that's familiar. We had a really great meeting with our AT working group on this. And the biggest message that I took away from that is just consistency in sort of like the language of traffic calming that we're developing. Yeah, I won't say any more.
Can I ask a question? So I think that, because I think we have speed bumps on a few streets actually. So Maple, Sterling, Acadia, and Willow, right? So we have 4 different ones at this point in time for various different spaces. When you flip back to the one beforehand, Gasbro and Highland are called low volume collectors, which, I mean, maybe compared to Main Street, they're lower volume, but I think that they do have quite a bit of volume. And when we have development at the top of them, we're going to have more. So I think we need to consider those maybe as maybe more purple than an orange, or higher volume than lower volume. Something to consider. I mean, is that done based on now or what's going to
So
come
really,
next?
the hierarchy of those is really around Main Street. There's nothing even close to Main Street. So that's sort of our top.
Gotcha.
Because they're connected to outside of town.
Mhm.
That's really why they're getting that collector. We can talk about what kind of speed we're trying to achieve on them. Like, we are trying to achieve 10 kilometers below the speed limit.
Mhm.
Um, but I see what you're saying. You mean people might think, oh, geez, these are going to be set up for everyone to drive down now. Yeah, okay. Okay, leave that with me.
Yep, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, so these, what we're looking at right now is not among the documents we were directed to for this meeting. So I'm just wondering, are you looking, what are you looking for from us?
I'm just trying to educate everyone on where all of the different pieces of work that are kind of converging that we're running through council and this committee and other committees that we're working with that will impact changes to our municipal planning strategy. So I just don't want people to look at the municipal plan and be surprised by this and this other list of things that I'm about to talk about. I'm really just giving you a very quick introduction.
So at some later point, will be included in some sort of decision-making or a picnic gathering?
Yes, a lot of this decision making has been in the works for many years. This is really just putting in policy the work we've been doing around our active transportation network is really what it is. Some of this is like a catch up, and I'll speak to some of that here too. So the bulk of the work in the municipal plan is around the neighborhoods in the downtown. That's really what the Housing Accelerator Fund is impacting. But when we're opening up our planning documents like this, we really do need to put some other things in if they're ready. And we have a number of other pieces that are ready. So that's one. That in the municipal plan, there's an entire chapter called mobility, and it really deals with how people move around the town. What guides that chapter are some maps, which give us some design parameters to work at on the ground. How are we going? What are we trying to achieve when we design this street? And so that's what those maps are, is trying to give us some guidance, give consultants guidance. So it's
Yeah, no, I understand. Just there was considerable material to look at for
Yeah.
tonight, but this wasn't among it. So
yeah, I'm going to go to that too.
so that's just, I'm just raising a concern because it's sort of out of scope for me to do anything with, really.
Yeah, it's a fair concern. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm not, so the concern is that you didn't get the material in advance?
I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
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 I can speak to that because I did ask, someone else asked me if there was going to be a package for this meeting. The reality for us on a capacity level was I just finished this presentation like 20 minutes before I came here. So a lot of this work is happening in real time. We have the documents. We really are focusing all of our resources into working on actually building out the documents. And there'll be another substantial package in October. I just want to give everyone the courtesy really of telling you what else will be there, so it's not a surprise. Is really what the intent of me going through this is.
And maybe I can interject, because I think that I also have asked for a holistic view of things, because we seem to sometimes look at things in isolation. So putting the active transportation and the PAC and all of this, like all of the development together, they are all super intertwined. So I think they're just trying to give us an overview of all of the things that are going to play into decision making. Not necessarily to make a decision tonight on them, just for information so we can percolate the information as we move forward.
Good. So I won't, I could spend a bunch of time on this, so I won't. There's other pieces of the municipal plan that are moving forward concurrently that we are going to bring forward in this amendment package. I would call most of them, honestly, fairly housekeeping level things or directly related to what we're doing. There is a piece of Parks and Recreation work. Again, this is up at the policy level that is really for council to consider in alignment with their strategic plan. So we're bringing forward some of that. And there'll be other pieces of the municipal plan, like our flood mapping that we will update. I think that's most of that. There's a lot of the non-market housing work is really going in at a policy level. There's not a ton of land use bylaw regulation that we're putting in around something like non-market housing. It's somewhat aspirational, I would call it. Okay, so I'll get into the more meat and potatoes of what the material is. So I just want to come back to this point, because this is, I would say this is more administrative, to be honest. Like, this is really operational, and Marcia would do most of this work, and Mark. So this is just, I just want the image is just as an example of all of the different uses and all of the zones that we're developing come with sort of a key of how they are enabled in the town. Okay, so my time here, there's sort of been multiple versions and amendments to move forward, and we're just trying to slightly turn this into a more simplified process. But I think anyone that's familiar with the land use bylaw, it's pretty, like, visually it's the same. It's just, this is the table that we're still working on that is really important. And when you're opening it up, this thing really does tell a big story about what's permitted where and how is it permitted. What is the process to allow an apartment building to be built in this type of zone that you see on the map. In the front end of the land use bylaw, there are these process diagrams. And so we've updated these to try to be as clear as possible and have people understand what this says. Simple projects at the top. So I'm not trying to read through all of this. I just really want people to pay attention to these when they come out, because we're putting them in there for your benefit. And really, we're putting them in there for people that are working with the land use bylaw so they can really clearly understand what they need to do if they're trying to invest in Wolfville. And so an as of right on the far left, we often call this as of right. In the table, it's represented with a little P, that means permitted. And that's for things like decks and really simple things. It can go up to single family homes. It can go up to fairly substantial low density type housing forms. Permitted with conditions is similar from a process perspective. Someone comes in, submits a development permit. They meet certain conditions that are associated with what they're trying to do. They then move into getting a building permit, and then they're permitted to build or do what they have said they're going to do. To be honest, we have a lot of things that are permitted in this realm, but when I started here, 2014, 2015, there wasn't actually that much that you could do in these approval tracks. So most of the things were in these more complicated approvals. So site plan approval is something we just introduced in 2019. And this is a relatively new tool, I would say, in Nova Scotia. It's really common elsewhere. But this is when someone comes in, they maybe want to do a multi-unit building. They have to meet a whole bunch of requirements, including the types of drawings and professionals that we require them to engage with before we'll even look at their application. And often we also will engage the design review committee. Michael Napier's here tonight. He's one of the members of our design review committee. So he's worked with us a lot on site plan approval in the most recent years, but we would normally be working in this far right column in the development agreement approval. We're trying to limit the use of development agreements. And so those are applications that usually take 8 to 12 months. They come through a PAC council process. They should warrant that process. And so you'll still see the use of development agreements, but it's for significant projects. So the holy grail of land use planning, the zoning map, this is where we're at today. So this is like fresh off the presses. You have one in front of you. This is simplified. The biggest change you'll notice is we have left the what was the R1 zone as its own zone. The overlay was becoming cumbersome. The town's very small. My own practice, I'm very hesitant to use overlays when we're governing such a small area. So if we can put it all in one place and it be legible, we try to do that. So what we've introduced in the neighborhood areas, and this is coming from the documents, this shouldn't be a surprise other than having its own zone. So we have the low density restricted, the low density, the medium density and high density. So those are the residential zones. We have downtown commercial, the mixed use, and then these sort of, I'll call them, they're not unimportant, but we haven't made significant changes to the parks, the institutional zones, the agricultural land. So you'll see all of those there. We will come back to this, so I'll just I'll keep moving through the rest of it. I wanted to touch on design guidelines tonight so you understand when you receive the package sort of how we use them, what they are, what the process is. So we haven't changed the area covered by design guidelines. So this area in the existing documents, the only difference is there's a downtown neighborhood and a downtown commercial. I should say that correctly, it's core neighborhood and core commercial. So we've changed it to just be reflective of the what's in the MPS, but the boundaries haven't changed. We have this working group, the Design Review Committee, that really helps us and adds significant value. We have changed the process slightly over time, but we've been using a consistent process to look at applications, and it's a massive tool. I can't understate how valuable it is for staff. To have really, how I see it is the designer on the project comes in and sort of faces our committee. And it's really powerful. We've gotten some good outcomes from it. So we don't want to change the process necessarily, but the documents do need to reflect some of the approval changes where we're moving things into site plan. A lot of development agreement consideration has been done in the past. So we're trying to reflect that by things that are in the guidelines now. We're trying to move a lot of that into the requirements. And so there's not as much of a back and forth and a debate. And some of this goes to some of the character and heritage elements. I think it's some of it has been perhaps because it wasn't in the land use bylaw, it was seen as a guideline. And we're trying to move closer to using almost exclusively these principles, trying to unpack them a bit more, because this is what our committee discussions really always come back to is, I'll just summarize this in the broadest of strokes as to, trying to get towards something that is considered good design and guided by principles. And so we're updating the design guidelines. It's not a significant rewrite. They will be reflective of what's still there. And the other piece is, through this work, through the heritage discussions, through really being asked this for a number of years. I do think that we would really benefit from looking at our heritage resources in more detail through a defined piece of work that could inform what is protected and the debate around what is being protected. And so, we did pause on going to landowners and telling them that we're looking at your property and limiting your development rights, without having something that I would call sort of publicly defendable behind it. So I think this piece, can talk about the town's role in if we want to incentivize this type of thing. And so that can also lead into programming. And this isn't a unique piece of work. Lots of places have done this. Right now, what I just said, there's a lot of opinion on what should be and shouldn't be registered. And I think we need some advice on how and why we're doing that and what are the tools to get there. And the biggest piece there is the owner of the property has to understand what they're getting into. And I think that's a process in and of itself. And that maybe through that process, we could look at the design guidelines areas. But those were defined for good reasons. So this again is something that we can identify in our municipal plan as something, if there's political will behind doing that. And I think it would just benefit us on a lot of the discussions that we're having around character, pixie dust, look, feel, patterns, shapes that people like and don't like. I think that would really help. But I don't think moving ahead with the updates that we're doing is going to be a detriment, because we have been cautiously going through this. And I'll give a lot of credit, honestly, to Tristan and the care that he's given to that topic as we've gone through this. So we do have in the design guidelines a lot of focus on heritage, and really this is around what are the existing patterns that we have in the town and what is the sort of history of architecture that we have. And so we have what we've created in there is a style guide. It's an educational piece that can show people what are the different types of buildings that we have, why are they important, and what is registered now. And so that's already in there, and that's staying in there. That I've used this with many applicants. Maybe I'll stop for a second. I'm going to go into more specific things now.
Any questions on the design guideline section? Questions, concerns, feedback?
Great. Heritage stuff out
That's what I was gonna say. Just good to hear. Yep.
and get into the, town budget.
Okay, so just stop me if you need to, but I'll keep going for now. So this.
We've been talking too long, Wen.
Okay, so I'm highlighting this because I think this is going to be a primary issue that we're going to be discussing. So I want to make sure everyone understands what's in the documents. Okay, so this is the R1 issue. I'm going to step through this pretty slowly. So we're moving forward with allowing 2 units. Okay, that's what we're writing the land use bylaw to say. We have a name for it. It's really the same name as it had. And we've created its own zone to make it more clear, especially on the mapping. The overlay, I think, for most people it's just confusing. So we're only using the overlays where we really need to. We're working out the details, but we're close. And I want to just talk about some of them now. So you are allowed to do a home office in the R1 zone now. And we've created in the last plan review use called home occupation. So I'm going to show you exactly what is in that in the land use bylaw in a later slide. So I'll just put a pin in that now, but that's still there. We're not taking that away. I think the question really that I'm asking is there a desire to do anything more than that? And I'll show you what the next category is. The owner occupied Airbnb. And then I just want to make a point around the lots are very large. Okay, there will probably be comment and debate around owner-occupied Airbnb. I'm not trying to glaze over that one, but let me just keep going through the whole R1 and then we can talk. So that there's no boundary change.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
So just so I'm clear, 2 units could be 2 units under one roof or 2 units under 2 separate roofs?
Yeah.
Okay.
You said yes, but yes to what? Yes to what?
Both.
Both. Yeah, an
You
addition,
could
like,
take you could take a house and divide it in half and have two.
yeah, so there could be an in-home suite, like in your basement. There could also be, if you have a garage and you have an above the garage type of unit, I call it a detached suite, or you could have a standalone small suite. That's what we're setting up in the requirements. Let me go through some.
Accessory dwelling unit.
Accessory dwelling
Yeah.
unit, yeah.
I'll let you keep going before I make any more comment.
So I just want to go through, because this is what we were asked for, is just helping people understand constraints and some of the analysis that we're doing around this zone, but all zones. I think the other zones are actually quite a bit more complicated from this perspective, but this is just for ADUs. And so we have permitted ADUs throughout town, and there has been a provincial program to try to encourage them. We've had very little uptake. So since 2020, we've issued building permits for 6 detached dwelling units and 21 for internal conversions. And that's basically in all of our residential areas. So the uptake is low. The biggest thing just to keep in mind with the size of lots in the R1 zone is compared to most places, and we just are comparing them in the Halifax land use bylaw, they are significant. I'm going to show you a lot that is still like in an HRM context or something. They're building an 8-story building on 9,000 square feet. Our average lot size in this zone is 15,000 square feet, 1,400 square meters. I'll show you one that to give you context, but just to show sort of where the lot size is. So regulating purely on lot size is difficult because the average lot size is very large. The map just talks about areas that ADUs would be permitted, but let me show you a lot and and let's just talk through this. And then, so this is considered a smaller R1 property. And so it's 9,000 square feet. So that's 75. I'm going to talk in feet because I think people are more familiar with it, but I can talk in meters if you want.
Feet.
Okay.
I think most
So
of us are of that generation.
75 by 124. That's pretty significant in size. And this is just, we're just showing some things that would be on a typical lot here, right? So all I'm trying to show you here is just the size and what a house would look like on it. When we look at the constraints that are just a given in the land use bylaw and what is possible on this site, so you can't put an accessory dwelling unit in your front yard. Okay, so that whole front yard area on this site, that red line is a no-go zone. So that's the front yard setback. So that area's out. This person could put an addition on their house that's quite large, but from the place that we drew here, it has a front porch. They're probably not going to add an addition in front of their porch. People could have all kinds of things in their front yard that they're not going to put a big addition on the front of their house. We don't see that very often, putting additions on the front of houses. There's a 35% building coverage provision, which because the lots are of such a size, that isn't that impactful. There's a lot of room on a lot of lots, right? This one is on the smaller size though, so I can, and there is a lot that are fully built out like this, and this is why I want to show you how difficult it is. So I said about the front yard, so they could do an addition. So really what that leaves is this little area that we have in the back corner, which I'll show you on the next slide, equals about 500 square feet. So other constraints just to think about is just the cost and financing of doing either that addition option or this other option. Where it is, there's privacy concerns. Servicing is very expensive and complicated in this context. There's labor and the price of labor and availability of labor. And then every site has their own challenges around slopes, water, landscaping, and there's other factors. So really what it comes down to, if this person wanted to do something, they have this little area over here, which they could already do something there. So if they wanted to put a pool shed, a garage, or something back there, we would give them a permit to do that. You can put an accessory building on your property in your backyard. I know you're all familiar with that. People have sheds in their backyard. But just to give you a sense of kind of what we're seeing for like a turnkey, if you wanted someone to build you an ADU back there, we think it would cost you, you have no skills, you're getting someone to do it. We think it would, depending on how nice it was, you know, it's easily costing you $140,000 to build this.
That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you just tell me if the pool is taken away, what can you do? Because it's like where it's under 10,000 square feet, would you be able to put in a secondary unit on that space anywhere, just where the pool is gone? Because not everybody, somebody could buy that house and take the pool down.
Yeah, so then the backyard becomes, you know, you could draw another box here for an addition. There are other setback requirements. So this is a 4-meter rear yard setback. So that is a constraint.
The accessory unit that you have that was only 500 square feet could be bigger. You took the pool out, right?
Yep. Well, but that's again getting into the details of the requirements. So we could limit the size of the unit as well.
I was just trying to get a perspective of, sorry, I was just trying to get a perspective of the square footage compared to taking the pool out. Because taking pools out are common sometimes when people buy houses. I
Yep.
mean, but so I was just visually trying to, because that is an R1 area, so just trying to figure out, yeah.
And what we've seen other places is ADUs, sometimes the restrictions is a percentage of the size of the primary dwelling. So the footprint of that primary dwelling is really not that large. And so that smaller dwelling is, you know, almost 50% of the footprint.
Hello.
Sorry.
I just want to say one more thing, and then so I just want to say that I don't have examples for all the other lot types in town. So we did take the time to do this one. We want to bring more for the RL and the RM zone just to show you some of this. I do just want to really emphasize that we're showing you constraints and we're showing you hypothetical situations. A lot can happen on lots for enough budget. If someone really wants to do something, they can typically. And if you can see the lot lines here, sorry that they're a bit faint, but this is East Main Street. These are not typical lots. They're the shapes of these lots, the size of some of these lots, some of them are quite small, some of them are 4 or 5 acres. And so we can't do a scenario for every single lot type in town. This one is really straightforward, and there actually is quite a bit of this type of lot fabric, I'll call it. So this is why we're showing you this one. It wasn't super complex to do, and it has maybe some typical constraints.
Al?
I was just wondering, with the sort of the additions, are they still required to do sort of a lot grading plan or stormwater management plan as well?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yeah, my question would be related to what Alan said. I keep thinking last July and the flooding and the fact that we're on a hill and the water runs down, and I know our house had a river running through it. So did yours.
So did mine.
Does the town do the flood research or the property owner? Because it's crucial.
I'm not sure what you mean. So the town, we would review how someone is putting their addition or building on a site and what impacts that might have. In terms of flood research, though? Yeah, what do you mean by flood research?
Well, I'm thinking of Sterling Avenue, and there were a lot of flooding issues there. who monitors that? The individual? Is it their responsibility? Or is it collectively the town?
It really depends. I mean, we've dealt with so many different circumstances, and so if we're sending water onto someone's property, then certainly we're very involved. There's a lot of private issues that we wouldn't get involved in. We would maybe encourage them to invest in something that could help their situation. But what's happening in some circumstances is someone's developed a property 40, 50 years ago, and the conditions have changed. The amount of rain that we are receiving has changed. And so their property,
Thank God for French drains.
right. And so they need an investment like that. They need to look at their basement, the resilience of their basement, the age of it, and what it can do, and can it withstand water. There's a lot of things that private owners should be doing. But yes, I mean, to a certain extent, yes, the town is looking at that, but not at an individual, every single property. I'm not going to claim that we do that.
Oh, it's just that when something happens, like last July, everybody blames the town. And so educationally, I guess, we need to be letting people know it's up to them.
Yeah, and to Wendy's point, and I guess it's just my understanding of what we mean by as of right. So if we make this change and people can put those scenarios, 2 dwellings, either under one roof or a detached unit or using an outbuilding, is there still any kind of review of that plan if it's an as of right?
Oh yeah, so that's the role of the development officer and the building official. Yep, and we would either have, it depends how complex, like for an existing neighborhood, if someone's putting a shed or a garage up, we're not going to do an extensive review on how that's changing the way that water's flowing over the property. It's probably not going to change it that much. There's some principles that we would apply and people would look at. Yeah, but it's we would consider this type of development in the grand scheme of things pretty straightforward.
So I'm gonna go full disclosure. This is my house. Okay, so
You can-
I would invite anyone to come to the back of my house and see what that looks like. Because I will tell you right now, if I built something in my backyard, I don't think my neighbors would still be my friends. Because I can, in that 2-meter spot, because I can stand at the edge of that deck and have a wonderful conversation with the Roach family next door. And the kids are out there playing, and actually they built a putting green. It's really nice. So that I can, but we're literally in each other's backyards. Like, I mean, spot on. And same with the next door neighbor is Coach Cummins. I can have a conversation right over those trees with Coach every single day. Well, now they're a little tall, so not as much as we used to, but definitely can. It is, and on this side, I had a variance to go next to Bill's house. So that deck is actually closer than it should be, or that deck is closer than it should be to his house because he agreed. So I think until that looks okay on that page, but it would be horrible for all of us. And if I built something right there, right now, if with the water, that is, well, I've got pictures from July because we weren't home and I had kids over there, not kids, students, looking after our house, and they were knee deep in water in my backyard. And if I put something there, I will guarantee you, again, my neighbors are not going to be my friends anymore because I am pushing that water into their backyards and their basements. So I know that because, in theory, those all things sound reasonable. In real life, it's not. So I think 2 meters is not enough. I think the stormwater management part has to be spelled out that we will be monitoring, like, I just don't, I think we are going to cause neighborhood rifts, and that's really not something I would look forward to. I mean, I don't plan on building anything there. I guess if I sell it and someone else does it, that's one thing, but my lot is small, my house is small, and I can still do that. I'm worried for what. Now I look across the street, they back on, and they have probably 2 acres in their backyard. They can probably do that quite comfortably, and they back onto green space of Acadia. Sure, that's actually, there's a big ADU out the back. I think it's a workshop. I think there's a music space sunset across the street at the neighbor's house. They don't bother anybody. When you back on to someone right behind you, I think that's where you're gonna run into issues, and I'm not sure that's the intent of that planning.
And I think you're bringing up the exact point that we're trying to make, which is it's very unlikely that someone's going to put something there. And if this context does play out, I think it does illustrate the need for buffering and maybe an increased setback for dwelling units versus things like garages and sheds. So that's what that was sort of the next piece of this is really meant to illustrate that the points that you're making, right, is that that's a really tight spot, and it's jammed right in the back corner, and you can do, I talk here about you could put a garage there or a shed or something, and people do. You might store your things for your pool or something in there, but
That's a lot of things.
You're not gonna build a 500 square foot.
no, but
No,
So.
and so that's where we're looking at buffering requirements and increased setbacks for ADUs. So then, the rear yard setback in this zone is actually 4 meters. For accessory buildings, for most other accessory buildings, it's a reduced setback. And so that's something that I think is important, because a lot of these lots as well, they're set way back. The front yard setback isn't being built to. Like this is the minimum up
Yeah.
here, right? And there's a lot of lots like this where the house is basically set right in the middle of the lot.
Mhm. I do have gardens in the front that aren't there, but that's okay. My question, but to the flip side of that, you say most people won't do that. Really, $140,000 dwelling unit. If I was to say my mother needs to come and live with me, that's not that much money compared to what I might rent or buy for her somewhere else, right? To have her that close to me, like, so maybe it's not impossible. Go ahead, Michael.
I just want to point out that this is RLR, but the issue that you're all discussing applies across all the zones. So I'm not an RLR, but I would have the same issue if
Yeah.
my neighbor built
Mhm.
possibly a house 2 meters from my same thing, right? The water flow.
Yep.
So that all the things you're talking about apply to all
Mhm.
these zones, right? You have to be considered everywhere, I would think.
Absolutely. It's a change to RLR where I think you all are in R2 at the moment. So it can be, you can already do 2 units. Am I wrong? Yeah.
I think so. All I'm saying is if I put a second unit in
Yes.
and it changes the water table for my neighbors, that's an
absolutely.
issue. Doesn't matter where I am in the town, right?
Got you. I understand what you're saying. Yep. Thank you. Yep, for sure. Jen?
So yes, that is true, but as I think I've talked to Devin before, just because we're allowed to do that doesn't mean that you're gonna get a development permit for it if the land is too small. Am I correct, Devin? Okay.
But what are we saying the size
Yeah,
is? That's the question.
Question, that's about it.
Is this appropriate? Or does it need to be more of a spatial difference between you and your neighbor? Al?
Sorry, I'm actually getting a little bit lost in where we're going on this one, to be honest. Okay, so going back to first points, so part of the HAF is that we have to deal with R1 to some degree. So that's checked. How we do it is within our bailiwick, and we get to have some input. So is the concern about the distance between lot lines, or is it the size of the structure? Because we can put parameters around both of those. It could be 30% of the existing structure. It could be close to 80% of it, whatever that percentage seeks to be. I think the building code has some specifications around that as well too, that actually defines what a secondary dwelling unit is and caps it. So we could use that as a possible answer as well too. So is it the privacy issue, or is it the size, or is it both?
Both, and the consequences that come from either one of those. Because, I mean, every lot size, again, would be different. So depending on how big it was, I mean, I guess you could build it bigger and make it closer. So, but if you restricted the size and it was further away, and then still to the water issue, if I know in my backyard, if I did that, I absolutely would have to fill that, because it dips like this. I would fill it in, and that would 100% push that to somewhere else. And I do have a French drain in the back of my yard. I did already do that, and it still fills up to be knee deep.
So I think one of the questions I asked earlier was around the stormwater management guidelines, which deal with there's no net runoff for any addition. I think that's how it functions. I'm looking for general nods from anyone who works here. Thank you. Okay.
General nods.
So there's no net runoff to the other property. So anything that would actually have to go in those circumstances would be designed in such a way to mitigate that, either through swales or drains or whatever it may be, buffering, etc. So I think that one, some properties are obviously more susceptible based on where they're located on the hill, gravity, etc., where the water table actually sits on that property, etc. So there'll be unique circumstances. The distance from the property line, though, I don't know, if it's a back end of a shed, it could be the back end of a house at the same time too. If it's a blank wall, it's a blank wall. It's a difference between like having a giant picture window and you're watching your neighbors sunbathing. That's a different story, which nobody likes that. And I think it would actually make people who are in the unit as uncomfortable as the people who are being watched. So we're kind of seeing this play out a little bit on Sterling Avenue, the way they're being positioned and how they're overlooking other people's properties. But what ends up happening is that most people are actually using the front of the property instead of the back. So people kind of adjust to some degree. So also going back to the first point too, I think part of the point here is trying to increase opportunity for people who have existing structures and give them more opportunity to actually house, their parents, like I would like to do at some point close by. Maybe an income stream. Not everyone's making $400,000 a year, so maybe they need a little bit more to actually deal with that, in particular as you're aging or you have kids, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. I think we can do some design parameters around the positioning and the privacy components pretty easily. But I think we should definitely allow for this to some degree. I think it's feasible in some cases and it makes sense. But again, to the point, Devin Major, no one's beating down the door for this, and there's even funding for it now, which may not exist in a few years or a few months. So we'll see. Yeah.
And I should say there's smaller lots than we've shown, which, would add to the complication of that. But there's also a lot bigger that's on the smaller size for sure. But as I said, the average is almost double that. So we're just trying to illustrate, and honestly, I took a lot of great things away from that, which is, we have been exploring increasing setbacks size relative to existing unit. The stormwater piece is there, and then emphasizing the use of front rear yards and what can and can't be there. So I appreciated that discussion I know we got pretty detailed on one site level thing, but I think it's needed because I do want people to be able to have that discussion because this is why I'm showing this. That site is really easy to get your head around. These ones are not, right? These are, if you're not in the land development, like space, right? Like there's a lot of possibilities on 4 acres of land. Right? And we can't possibly draw you all of the different iterations of what happens. And zoning does, strive to simplify, right? And so that's why we have these approvals that are more detailed, like site plan approval, where they do have to submit a lot of things to meet the requirements. And we're trying to develop what the tolerances are really, right? So this area, I think, is one that I want to highlight to people because it has a very unique lot fabric. It's really random, really deep lots. And so we'll bring back more on that.
Can I just ask two more questions? One is, so it's just not just, but it's, because it's not R2, it's RL. R?
It's L.
R.
It's RL.
Yeah. RL, yeah, okay. So if I have enough space to build a space, an accessory dwelling unit, can I still make my house 2 units? So I would have 3?
In the RLR zone?
Yeah.
No.
No, so I can do one or the other.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that because I wasn't 100% sure when that question was asked. And I think to Wendy's point, when we talk about the net zero runoff, when Sterling was built, and I think we're probably thinking about the same discussions, the developer put forth a stormwater management plan to the town, which we approved.
Mhm.
It, according to people who live there, it does not. So we might say, like if I submitted what I thought was a net zero runoff and I build it and you say, yeah, that's right. And I was wrong. And we as the town development officer approve it. What happens then? Because I don't know the answer to that.
Well, so
Pardon me? Yeah.
So the example that you give, like in new development areas where people are submitting subdivision level stormwater management plans, those plans are being built like at build out, full build out. So most of the issues that I've dealt with have been because of partially developed areas or completely stripped areas running into areas that are urbanized. Right. And so we're having the same issue in the East End.
Mhm.
And that's why turning on the infrastructure, paving, using the stormwater infrastructure that's there is what we're really trying to get towards. The West End has the same issue. Some of it is compliance through Nova Scotia Environment.
Yep.
Around stormwater management. We talk to Nova Scotia Environment quite often. So there's enforcement. We've done a lot of site level in the West End especially. We've gone up and worked with a lot of different property owners.
Yeah, but when we're talking about one specific unit in the middle of an already developed street, what's that? What comes from that if I don't do it right and the town approves it?
I hate to say it depends, but it does depend. It depends on what's happening.
Comforting.
So if someone is sending a whole bunch of water onto their neighbor's property,
Yeah.
which just using your street as an example, it has sort of a perfect slope coming down the hill, and so. And full disclosure, I used to live on Jody Street too, and my basement flooded on the street. And that issue was my neighbor sending their roof leaders straight into my basement, basically. Right. And the water table came up and I flooded my basement. And so that's a civil issue between myself and my neighbor. Right. That the town's not like, we can also tell them to like move that water away, but like we don't have compliance going around, and there's especially in the older neighborhoods, right? So the new neighborhoods is where it's really easy for us to seek compliance, to be honest, because we have a site level or subdivision level stormwater plan that people have to sort of plug into, and water is going to move in certain directions towards our infrastructure mostly. In existing neighborhoods, that's where we ask for a stormwater management plan at a site level, mostly making sure that there's, as Alan indicated, no net runoff, especially on the neighboring properties.
I'm not sure that gave me the comfort that I was hoping for, but go ahead, Jen.
to build on that, so when you're talking about, let's just keep using Jody Street, that's an existing area that may have some issues, but somebody decides to build an accessory unit in the back and it's running into your house, you're saying that's a civil issue? Because if we allow this, will this compound and compound, you know, will this start to be, everybody's having an issue? Because we're going to hear about it if everybody starts to do that, right? We are, I mean.
So for that, I just think that's why we really have to look at lot size and say, if I was to do an internal conversion, I wouldn't probably affect anybody else. But on my lot size, so anyone even close to that lot size, it is going to cause issues for your neighbor. We all live on a hill. Okay, maybe not you. You live at the bottom, which is worse. So it's just the topography of our town that is leading to these discussions and people's real concerns, because I really don't want to have to fix my basement because someone's put water on it, and I really don't want to do it I don't want to do it to my neighbors either. So that's where my level of concern comes up. I think then it just creates conflict within our community, and that is absolutely not what we are hoping to do. All right. Social impact. I'll stop beating the dead horse. Move on.
I was going to move into neighborhood commercial. We
ahead.
can keep discussing the last item, but I'll.
No. Go ahead. Yep.
So that's why I put that issue first.
Yeah. Just to bring my blood pressure up. Thanks.
So just shifting gears here. So this does have some R1 implications as well. And there is a bit of something to think about. So we have 3 tiers of neighborhood commercial. So the ability to do something of a commercial scale in the neighborhoods, that's what I'm talking about. And we are introducing a way to do corner stores or other types of commercial through what used to be the C2 zone. So we would allow someone to do just really simple examples here, but a home office, you can do that anywhere. And you can do that in the R1 zone. A home-based business, you can basically do anywhere except the R1 zone. And it's basically just a slightly bigger use of your home as a business. And there's lists and things associated with this. And then if you wanted to have even more commercial rights in the neighborhood, we would have required you to rezone your property to C2. That was what we had before. So we're getting rid of the C2 zone, but I'll just highlight, this is straight into the land use bylaw. So the biggest difference here, home occupation, it's usually around size. So you can use your home 50 square meters. This one I'm pretty sure is 80 square meters. No, this is anywhere that someone can, this is a residential home and you want to do something in your home that is commercially something. There's many examples we could use, but let's just say it's some type of office use in your home. And so this has slightly more rights. And so this one says no more than 3 people are employed. So you could actually have employees working out of your home in a home-based business. And there's a number of things around signage, noise, parking, and size, right? So this is existing. This is what we have today. We're not changing this. And this is existing as well. And so there's no signage, there's no employees. You can only have 1 appointment at a time. So we weren't proposing to change these. I just want everyone to understand that there's like kind of 3 tiers. And then this is the areas that we've discussed around what types of neighborhood commercial could be enabled. And so I just want to step you through this. So the blue are the areas along Pleasant and Main Street where neighborhood commercial would be enabled. And so let's just really simplify it and call it like a corner store. Okay, so someone could potentially do that through a process. The gray is just other areas where commercial is permitted, and those the multi-unit where we allow bigger apartment buildings, they have rights to put like a small commercial use at the ground floor. So that's why we included those. But it also shows kind of a healthy distribution. That's why we included them as well, because some of those areas would be where more people are living. So we didn't have this that well developed, and we've really just sort of like workshopped this. So this is where we're landing. There was honestly, the feedback that we've gotten was none to we should do it on Gasborough, Highland, all of these different streets. So this is what we're working towards, recommending. There would be kind of a section like this with requirements that you would read through, and it would sort of be the next scale up from the home-based business. But I'm just introducing this today. We have the bigger maps, and maybe we can look at them in more detail on the tables, and I could keep rolling, but I'm happy to take questions on anything, so just stop me.
Does everyone want to talk about this, or do you want to wait till we get I find that hard to
I can't
see the details of that one, so do
You want to see it at the property level, I think, so.
Yeah. you want to wait till the map discussion afterwards? We're almost at 8 o'clock, so we might even get there.
Oh, geez. The broad strokes of this are East and West Main Street and the top of Pleasant. But I'm sure this is going to be an item of debate. It's almost 8 o'clock. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So accommodation uses. I'm just recapping this so no one is surprised, but we're moving towards there being permitted in the MU zone on your map, the C1 zone. We are trying to clarify and simplify some of the definitions. There's been a lot of confusion, I'll call it, around. We have right now short-term rentals, hotels, and inns, and I think there's a different way to do that. And so we're working at a new definition, maybe just around accommodation and having that be more straightforward. Inns was really a holdover definition from an era when a more traditional inn was being permitted. The commercial zone, maybe I'll just hit some of these quicker if that's, and then stop me if there's something that's really of interest. So this is the commercial zone that we've been discussing. I've included heritage properties on this to give some context around what's registered. Kind of coming into downtown, some Acadia properties that are registered, and then some items that are in the neighborhood by the school. Building height, we basically have downtown at 4 stories by site plan. You can see the other areas here. So agriculture is really about a barn. So that's not really there. Everything else is not changing. So these are all, they're existing. They are allowed to do 3 stories now, and that's what they're set to do. The mixed use zone where we're taking the C2 and others, we have in some ways lowered that. So that's now 3 stories by site plan, where in some contexts, I believe that had development rights to go up to 4. And then the university had 5 stories already. It's just moving to a site plan approval. And I'd like to maybe park the development agreement ones when we bring them back so we have the details around them. But this is what I think the real upper limits are without coming through a substantial process. And then we already have the high density residential with the 6-story areas that we've talked quite a bit about. But that's just a summary that I thought was helpful. I was going to move to parking, but we could stop if there's more.
Questions on or concerns on that one, or? Nope. Go back.
Any of these?
Yeah, any of those, building height, commercial.
Accommodation.
I just maybe had a quick question for, in the R1, if you're going to allow owner occupied short-term rentals, would the plan be to keep it at, so if it's owner occupied, they can run it year round as much as they want. but let's say they vacate their property and go away for a year. Are they limited? Like right now you have that 150-day limitation on it. Would that still pertain for
We were going to leave a number of days per year, yeah.
the 150?
Yeah, there's been some debate around whether that's appropriate. We were gonna highlight that for discussion when we bring the regulations forward, but we were gonna leave 150.
Again, I don't remember having that discussion about allowing Airbnbs in our LR, the new district. My understanding and the reason we were looking at R1 to go to RLR was to increase housing stock because we were in a housing shortage. I'm not sure what Airbnb does for the housing shortage. So I'm happy with Airbnb in our commercials and some of the higher density spaces, but I think that opens up a whole other can of worms that I don't recall actually agreeing on. I think we had the same discussion at the last one, so I'm confused by that one. Yeah. Wendy,
About building height.
go for it.
I am one of the two people who voted against the 292 Main Street height. And we don't even have that building up completely. And it's such a wall. It's such a wall. I really, really dislike the thought of more than 3 stories. I just have to say that.
Thank you.
Sorry. Do you want me to revisit the Airbnb issue? Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
How much do you want my blood pressure to go up more?
Well,
I know.
I mean, the reason we're bringing this forward is we do want this to land and not surprise people. So, there's a lot of inputs coming from Tristan and other people that are working on this, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's in there today. I think when we bring this forward, there's a ton of room for changes and pulling stuff in and out. That's why we really want to show this as a draft so people can see it all together. Want me to keep moving to parking? Yeah, okay. So when we've done check-ins on this, and it's useful, honestly, if there's other things that are surprising you, it's really useful for us to hear that, because if there's not continuity in the dialogue, that's why we're having this meeting. And so with parking, there has been comfort around reducing or eliminating requirements. So that's what we're moving towards. And I'll just go through, this is just one slide, I believe. So we're taking that direction. It does allow for flexibility. I have a note here just talking about developers will make their product viable, and a lot will provide parking. The cost of living realities of owning a vehicle and the reduced cost for housing and commercial providers, that's the big part of the underpinning of moving in this direction. That's why many communities have moved in this direction. I think for the town, the reason we brought the discussion about the town parking lot forward was to help support this direction, right, as a policy direction. The paid parking and how we move forward with that, I think it seems like that's been generally supported, but again, that needs details, and I think enforcement is important around how we move forward with these. We used to have no parking requirement downtown before I started working here, and so that is a long-standing issue. I don't think removing the parking requirements will cause significant pain in any context, but we do want to maintain standards for certain parking contexts. And so we still want certain limits to hard surface. We still want parking lots buffered. So a lot of this stuff is staying in. There's the ability to address EVs and we have some of that in there now. Bicycle parking is important, accessible parking is important, and large multi-unit parking, especially providing underground parking, in some cases requiring underground parking, avoids really massive surface parking. So we're not getting rid of them completely. But what ends up happening in the parking world is this table on the right is just, you know, what this is saying is it lists almost everything. So daycare facilities, curling rinks, accommodation, and you pick a number. Right? And so I don't think there's a science to picking these numbers. Right? And I've been working in land use planning for some time, and I can tell you that there really isn't. And so we're trying to address the issues that we see and that other communities have seen. And I think there's been support for this. Some of these other pieces are just more the standard. So limiting the amount of your front yard that can be used as parking. And then if someone is putting in a larger parking area, how we can make that more friendly to the environment, but also aesthetically with plantings and landscaping, stormwater management features. I might just keep rolling here. This is really nothing. This is just to let you know that we don't have a ton of material from what Lindsay's presented. That's moving in from a policy perspective, mostly into the municipal planning strategy. I think that will be something that people need to digest and see the implications of. I will show some of the Acadia work. So this is really just in the preamble to that Acadia section, talking about revenue generation being a reality for the university, the contributions to housing and other goals that we've been working through with them, like event attraction and some of the things that you see happening at the university. And they've already done quite a bit of work around assessing what they need, where they want to go, what they're focused on. So it was quite, it wasn't like, look at all the stuff. We tried to come in and be quite tactical with them and do something useful. So there's kind of two sets of sites, one on the north, one in the south end of campus. I have some work advanced and some is more just at this level. So just to orient people, this is the subway parking lot that Acadia owns. I believe there's a donation that kind of that had an aspirational piece of having a campus store on Main Street. And so we've worked towards that. That was one site they wanted to look at for viability. There's been some initial discussion just on this road frontage at Festival Theater parking. And then the other site that we've spent some time on is what's known as President's Field and adjacent lands to the stadium. So this is the type of thing that's happening, is developing concepts, pro formas, feasibility around housing and building on these sites. So these are just showing you what, this is subway lot. So this is a 4-story building on the subway lot.
That's in the capital plan, Kelly, coming up.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
So this is just some image. You'll be able to pore over these. These are in the document. I just clipped these out for you to look at. And these, we've been working with Acadia administration and looking at different options here on these sites. So this is street level view. There's a number of views, and they can show any type of view with this level of rendering. But I just want to show you what the intent of the work is really. And then there's some pages that accompany this in the chapter around unit count, possibilities. This is a concept, right? This isn't a design that they're pursuing to be built, but this is just full build out on the subway lot, what a 4-story building looks like. The other sites that we're looking at, the site further up on the slide is around Tower. So this isn't a focus for them. This is more like at a zoning or medium long-term thing. So looking at what they could do around that, and then looking at their site up along the highway, along off Highland. So this site here. So we're looking, I don't have drawings and everything for these, but we will. I'm just giving you a sense of what the scope of work is. So that chapter has these sites kind of detailed, and then it has the zoning for the university. They have their own zone. and kind of outlines different allowances and things. We are looking at these two sites a little bit differently because we're still sticking to the 5-story by site plan that they have, but there might be opportunity for something if they wanted to come to council and ask through development agreement and that's what we're looking to detail in the documents for consideration. So that's it. We can stop here at the Acadia piece, but
That's it. Only your 40 minutes went to an hour and a half. Just kidding. Kelly.
I really like the smooth roads. Again, smooth. It's really good.
Jen.
I know you said that the subway parking lot was just a concept. What do they foresee there? Like apartment style for university students or?
I think it's too early, really.
So there's nothing.
Housing.
Housing, yeah.
Yeah, so housing, I'm not sure as far as what the program would be. We're not really it's more development feasibility. What could go there? How many units? What type of options do they have? Because at this point, it's just, a blank slate for them. So we're helping them with moving it to feasibility. I think there'll be more discussion. They're still working these concepts through on their end as well, but we're trying to fit them into where we're going to land from a development rights perspective. And so that's where you're seeing the 4 stories there.
I mean, it looks nice. I mean, obviously Acadia doesn't have apartment style residences, right? So there's still open rooms for people to go into, but they have the meal plans. So is that something that you're focusing on when you're talking to them?
Yeah, they've done a significant amount of work through the Scion report that some of you would have seen. And so they're looking at what their offerings could be, whether they partner with like a nonprofit housing provider or whether it's a private industry or whether it's a campus zone. That's sort of more the business planning on their side on how they want to operate it.
Okay.
I think that building conceptually again has 53 units. And then significant commercial space along there.
Are there any more questions on the presentation? So according to our agenda, the zoning map and workshop was an hour, but we might not, well, we're not going to have an hour. But I wondered if we just wanted to then just say, is there a round table? Are there any comments? Look at the next meeting. And then whoever wants to stay and look at some maps for a little bit, we can do that. And then if you want to go, you can do, or we can do questions, do something else later. And if we need another meeting or need more discussion, we can do that too. Okay. So anything on a round table? Anyone have any questions, something they want to bring up? Wendy?
I'd like to know what Mr. Napier's thinking.
We can do that after this. How's that? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I have only one thing. We did a Coles Notes version of, I started it, I guess, and threw it back to staff and they made it longer and we made it shorter again. So it is now on Wolfville Blooms. So it gives us a little bit of a snapshot of what the Housing Accelerator Fund is, what we've done to date. These topics are all highlighted. And then when the engagement sessions are all in that. So it's, I'm not sure exactly how long it is now, maybe 4 pages long, but it is there to share. Please do that. That gives enough people to get at least the basics, the background of what we've done. Make sure they come out to those engagement sessions. And if they want to do deeper dives on the topics that are listed, there's links to all of those as well. So it's I think, a easy document to share around, so you can download it and share it at your will. So that's the only comment I have. And our next meeting is October the 9th. And I would have a motion to adjourn and we'll take a look at some maps.
Oh, so moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned.